We're here at Port Bonython on the beautiful Eyre Peninsula at the Port Bonython Liquids Plant. In this facility, Santos manages its gas and oil. Not very long ago, 2 Extinction Rebellions visited the jetty where big tankers come in to unload their gas and oil. From Moomba in the far north of the state, 660 kilometres away, a huge pipeline sends oil, gas and other liquids down to this location. Rebels have secured the gate here, blocking access to the plant. Rebels, Joe and Anne are locked onto the gates and are securing some banners to give the message that we must end the production of new fossil fuels. Welcome everybody to our live stream. We hope you are having a good morning and that you are joining with us in campaigning to end fossil fuel expansion. We know that the climate crisis is causing great damage across the world. The fuels and products that we produce here in South Australia are exported around the world to be burnt, creating more and more carbon emissions. We know that this is causing damage. We know that the world is at risk because of this. Behind us, you can just see the Gulf of St. Vincent, where the big tankers come in from the Southern Ocean. They come to take those products out to the rest of the world. Here we have Jo, who is a mother, a long-term volunteer, an artist and a musician. And we're just saying hello to Jo, asking Jo, why are you here today?
We are here because by necessity. We are burning the planet. Nothing is happening to contain it. So it's a last resort, this measure of non-violent civil disobedience. We have no regrets right now being here. And these wonderful people who are also here for this purpose.
Jo, can I ask you, how has the climate emergency personally affected you?
I've had friends that have been personally affected, but before we go any further, I do feel like we need to do an acknowledgement. Can I do that?
Please.
So, you probably already explained this to you. We are here at Bonython with members of Extinction Rebellion outside an oil and gas hub around 400 k's from Adelaide. We are on stolen Barngarla country, the land of sweet water. And we wish to pay respect to the traditional owners by recognising their continuing relationship with the spirit of this country and the songlines that are holding the past, present and future strong for them. Being here at this facility is a stark reminder of the exploitative harm fossil fuel companies are wreaking on the lives of Aboriginal people. and the country, all over this continent. First Nations so wisely tell us that what we do to country, we're actually doing to ourselves. First Nations so deserve justice for what we as colonisers have done to this country. With raging fires and floods affecting so much of the place, the consequences are now affecting all of us. It's only now. Many of us, more and more, hopefully, will be taking action. Because nothing is safe anymore. And this is why we're here.
You'll be up there, don't worry about that.
Oh, okay.
Rightio.
This place,
Thank you. Thanks for your advice.
Hey?
Thanks for your advice.
Oh, that's all right.
thank you. This place feels so wrong on so many levels.
Pair of scissors?
These Spencer Gulf waters are cuttlefish breeding grounds during the winter months. My partner and I brought our family here a little while ago now for the snorkeling experience. I will never forget the hypnotic pulse and the exquisite rainbow dance of the mating cuttlefish. I will never forget. I hope you're imagining that now. Imagine something else. Imagine that Santos crude oil being pumped into massive tankers here, just here, at more than 7,000 cubic metres per hour over 2 days. Imagine the cost of this species. I'm not sure if I can. Is that on? No. Hang on. There we go.
Can't do it. I'll have a look and see what I can find.
So I was talking about the cost to this exquisite species that's all over this coastline and in the winter months are breeding here. It is beautiful. So just imagining what would happen if there was a spill here in the winter months. That's a decimation of a whole species. And as far as I understand, this is the only place for this particular species to come to mate. Punishment for Santos? Equivalent to a slap on the wrist. Really? Yeah, it's true. Doug said that yesterday. It was, and the other thing too, I know Doug mentioned was, was there actually any kind of permission sought to actually build this facility here in this place that is so precious? Anyway,
More things that defeat us.
the person behind this camera actually asked me to tell my story. Well, what drove me to take part in this act of civil disobedience? How do I make a story out of climate anxiety, sleeplessness, suppression of pure anger about the biodiversity loss, and the shrinking hopes of any kind of livable future?
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Everyone's quite comfortable here just at the minute. Anyway, where was I? I'm here because I want to help build a new story for my kids, for everyone's kids, a future which has not been decided by politicians who bend over to companies like Santos and powerful right-wing forces like Atlas and their drill baby drill billionaires that profit from fueling our extinction. My t-shirt here, can you see it? Legs down. Reads, "Truth to Power." Speaking truth, confronting authority to advocate for what is right and just is, for me, a moral obligation. I'm here to publicly voice opposition to Santos shamefully shipping dirty crude oil, so-called natural gas to other countries, exporting harm for profit. We demand the elected government stop subsidising Santos with a licence to kill. Both major parties are complicit in this killing spree, with their plans to gut all our environmental protections, defund the Environmental Defenders Office, and the push to change the EPBC Act to benefit coal and gas. It's craziness, pure craziness. And it's the reckless fast tracking of more and more expansions in recent times. It just feels like, to me, it feels like a reoccurring nightmare. You know, we're hearing this all the time. Polls say feeling safe and secure is the most important thing for the majority of Australians. Our peaceful...
I'm just going to interrupt you for
Yes.
that, because one of the subjects here is telling us
Okay.
some information, and I'm
Yes.
just going to find out.
Yes, that's important. Please go. Yes.
From Santos. See what we're doing and checking out what we've done. From here you can see the entrance to the major facility here, where Santos delivers oil and gas. The profits from this business do not benefit any of the people of South Australia. We're being instructed that we're on private property, which we're aware of. Our police liaison people are interacting with the staff here and ensuring that everybody is safe.
Brock has pointed out that we're on private property. This is an emergency egress. He's concerned for our safety. He would like us to think. He would like us to live. I would like you to think about what we would like to do. I'll give you some time to think about that. I'll come back. Brock is the site manager. He pointed out that we're on private property. Pointed out that this is an emergency egress, and he's concerned for our safety. Automated banks, wondering if they can track it. He's asking us to leave. I'll give you a few minutes. Think about that. I'll come back.
Now we're going to go over here.
To our live streamer, I'd just like to point out that the site manager has pointed out that we are on private property and that this is an emergency egress, automatic gates. He's concerned for our safety. He would like us to leave What do you think about that? I'll come back to you.
Thank you, Trish. And thank you, Trish, for your work in keeping us all safe and understanding the rules and the constrictions under which we operate, which we fully understand in this climate emergency. Dr. Anne,
Hello.
thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And I wondered if you'd like to give us a few words about your take on this situation.
Well, what can I tell you? It's an overcast day here at the Bonython Port in Whyalla, South Australia. We are Extinction Rebellion, and this is what we do. We think about climate warming and where that's leading us into a climate emergency. And so this is the type of actions that we do. Not all of our actions look like this, but this is one where we've decided to blockade the entrance to a Santos facility that actually exports crude oil and unnatural gas into mainly Asia, are the customers. So, you know, I think for me, we're in the middle of an election cycle. We're all being asked to consider our future, our children's future, grandchildren's future, and vote for the Prime Minister that we want, for the party that we want, for the people to lead us. And one of the things I've noticed is that there really isn't a lot of talk about climate anymore. And I would like that on the agenda. And I think a lot of Australians are with me, that they want to have an honest climate discussion. They want to have policies that are green and renewable and that are jobs. For people like here who are these Santos workers, we want them to have jobs. I would like it, you know, my family to have jobs, my friends to have jobs. So we're not about putting people out of jobs. We don't, if we haven't got an environment, if our climate is overheated and warmed, there actually won't be an environment for us to enjoy. We are the environment. This is what we've learnt from Indigenous people, that we are one. We are not separate from that. I'll hang on to that little. So, you know, these are all the things that are going through my mind as I'm locked onto this gate, and I'm very likely to be arrested when the police arrive and charged. And I've examined my conscience, and I'm happy to do that, because I know there's a lot of people that can't do that. You know, some people have got jobs and they're worried about keeping their job. Some people, their reputation or maybe their family will disagree with them, and I've got lots of supports and privileges which allow me to do something like this for those of you who would like to do something like this. And I would encourage you to come and join us in all sorts of actions. As I said, it doesn't have to be like this. It can be, you know, other forms of resistance and rebelling, which are thoughtful, non-violent, and that's what we do. One of the things I really wanted to talk about was health, if that's okay, just to take, because I'm not quite sure when the police are going to arrive and all this. So I'm going to say this stuff now, and we might come back and talk about more a bit later. But I've worked all my career in health. So I started in nursing, then I became a midwife, and then I trained as an academic, and I've taught many public health professionals, doctors and nurses and physiotherapists and pharmacists how to do public health. And public health just means looking at health from a very big picture. That's all it means. It's not looking at individual people's health, but the big picture health, the policies, the laws that keep us healthy. And right now, I think some of our laws are weak and our policies are very weak. And what we know about the evidence and the science of climate warming is it's going to cause things like, it's already happening, but heat waves. It's going to cause disruption to food security and how our food is made and got to us. It's going to reignite some infectious diseases that we haven't seen in Australia before or are new to certain areas in Australia. these are the things that we can mitigate against, and we need to start talking seriously about. And signing a petition just isn't cutting it for me anymore. Sitting in a meeting and talking endlessly about this isn't cutting it for me anymore. Doing research and publishing. You know, I've worked at universities for 20 years. I need to do more of this. I need to put my body on the line. I need to take action. And we need to speak about the truth of a climate emergency. Santos, as far as I can tell, these good people here, it's not their fault. But, you know, as a company, they want to profit. It's just pure capitalism. This is how they make a buck. They're making a buck by destroying our planet. And what are we going to do? Like, what is everybody's plan? You know, we can't. What are we going to eat? Who's going to look after the kids? How are they going to build their future if we have got sea level rise, flooding, fires, bushfire, polluted air? You know, money's money, and yes, we need it, but it can be used in sensible ways for the good of people. A lot of people I know don't like migration. I've heard that being talked about this election, that migration is a problem in Australia. Well, I'm a migrant, and I've worked hard, my family worked hard, I know lots of people's families work hard, but we are going to get inundated with people who are coming from countries whose countries are sinking. In the Pacific, people's homes are being lost right now. Like, it's fact. The Pacific Island people are losing their land, losing their culture. They're going to need somewhere to live. They're going to have to come here. We're going to see people fighting for resources, for clean water, for food, and it sounds dramatic, and it's difficult stuff to think about. And we know that the government knows this stuff. You know, that we know that the biggest security threat to Australia is climate warming. The politicians know that, the Prime Minister knows that, the future Prime Minister knows that. It's like, we need to now start talking about this, of how we're all going to work together to support each other, to make sure that we have a world that is good for all of us to live in, for everyone, that's fair. And climate justice is kind of a term that we use a lot, and I think that's a good one. Social justice and climate justice, and those are the thoughts that motivate me when I'm doing something. This is the first time I've ever locked on to something, and that I know that the police will be here very soon to arrest me, and I don't feel comfortable or kind of happy about that, but it's something I feel is really important to do, and I feel kind of honoured to do it. So thanks, Extinction Rebellion, for supporting me, and I know a lot of you do support in all sorts of ways to do this.
Thank you, Dr. Anne. Thank you for your work, and thank you for your wise words, because those thoughts about the implications of climate change are not as well known as they should be, and you've expressed them beautifully. I'd like to actually look at the ideas here as well as we look at this very secure facility of what happens when security experts look at the implications of climate change. And Dr. Anne touched on this. You may or may not know that recently, well, actually a few years ago, the Office of National Intelligence did a thorough study of the security and defence impacts to Australia of climate change. That report, rated as terrifying by some of the politicians who looked at it. It was not released by the government and still has not been released. for some reason, they think that the Australian people do not deserve to know about the risks of climate change. Perhaps they're worried that the Australian people will arc up and say, well, if it's so risky, why aren't you taking more steps to put in place rules and policies and laws that help us? Here we have some thoughts from Santos, the South Australian and Northern Territory oil search company. Lately, they've talked more about gas. Here, they're giving some safety rules. They're well aware of safety on an individual and corporate level. But when it comes to the bigger risks caused by climate change, they are absent, not thinking about it, or they know about it and they're not publishing it. It's a real problem, both for them and their workers. The next thing that's starting to happen is that the insurance companies around the world are aware to happen. You will know that the price of insurance, like house insurance, is going up quite remarkably in some places. For example, on the east coast of Australia, places like Lismore, where floods have been prevalent recently. Some people are just knowing that they cannot afford to insure their properties. It's a fact. Insurance companies, in fact, were the first in the USA to notice the impacts of increased storm activity. Well, they're realists. Their profits are on the line. Santos profits, yes, ultimately, will be on the line. Most of those profits go to very large investors and overseas. They do not add much to the Australian economy, and they do not employ many people. So companies like Santos, BHP, Woodside, mostly in Western Australia, do not support our economy. In fact, we support them by giving them access to these facilities, by building roads, by not taxing them very much at all. You have to wonder what's in it for us other than permanent damage to the planet and to our atmosphere. Damage that's going to cause us such difficulty, cause us to be unable to live on what is our only home in this solar system. You can see here tankers doing their work of taking fuels back to the city of Adelaide and other locations. Soon they'll be powered by electricity, taking one of the problems out of the grid. We can see, not far from here, some gigantic wind farms. They're doing very well. Gas is becoming a vanishingly small contribution, and oil, to our economy and to our well-being. Yeah, we still need some, but we don't need new bits of it. And that's the things that Santos, by its very name, an oil search company, is continuing to expand. Our friend Joe is here quietly and unobtrusively locked to the gate here. I'm just going to zoom in on the lovely chain here that secured Joe to this gate, and fortunately as well, the gate itself has been locked shut so that it can't be easily moved. There it is, a substantial padlock and chain to make sure that the gate can't be moved with people attached to it. But I'd like to get a few more comments from Jo, if she's able, since we were interrupted on our conversation before. Jo, are you able to give us a few more comments?
Yes, I have.
Sorry for that interruption.
Yeah. You know, sleeplessness and anxieties messed with me a little bit, so I've got the cheat notes. Sorry.
So,
Unapologetically, by the way.
anxiety and climate
Yeah,
change
yeah.
is keeping you awake.
Ooh, all the time. Yeah. Yes, interruption.
There's an
For-
urgent message coming through from Anna
Can you
Sleen.
pause the lights?
Yes. Your camera is not locked onto landscape. Instead, is locked onto portrait aspect, so the live stream is sideways.
Okay.